Welcome back to Hot Water Wrestling, everybody. Just here with another video. The Royal Rumble, of course, was a week or so ago. Sorry I wasn't able to comment on that right away, but I got like the terrible flu that's going around, and I was just totally laid up. But I wanted to talk about several things today since it's been a bit since I made a video, and a lot of stuff has started to happen. Of course, I went to the SmackDown taping where The Rock came back on SmackDown and Del Rio won the title from Big Show. That was just an awesome time. I know I made a video about it, but I just wanted to come on and say I haven't forgotten about it. It was just a lot of fun, and it was cool to be there. The Royal Rumble, let's get right into that. I thought the Royal Rumble was a pretty decent event. I'm not going to go at it at great length since, there's probably been a bunch of videos made already and you're tired of hearing about it, but I will say that the match of CM Punk versus The Rock was a really good match. I really did enjoy it. It was good to see The Rock have to get down on the mat and do some wrestling. I was wondering how these two would pair up because they are so opposite of each other, but they ended up having a really great match. It would kind of be like, if Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart were to take on The Rock, those styles of wrestling, you don't really see them as together, but The Rock really impressed me there. I know a lot of people give The Rock a hard time, I suppose, or give Vince a hard time for bringing him back and shoving him into these title pictures and everything, but everybody just gotta get real here, okay? I mean, you can't have things both ways. We can sit here and complain that wrestling's not the same, and we miss the Attitude Era, and we miss superstars like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, and on down the line, and then we get one of these guys back, and certain people are kicking it in the nuts, saying that, oh, well, he's not back full time, and da-da-da. Well, the reality of the situation is that The Rock is a movie star, a big movie star, doing giant Hollywood films, not just straight-to-video movies, but giant Hollywood films. He has transcended the business. He has become an action star and a phenomenon in pop culture in general. I think the fact that he's come back and done this wrestling is awesome and cool, and he's doing all that he can to show that he never forgot his roots and to show that deep down he'll always be in the wrestling universe, in the community, that he will never forget it. And I think that's a great honor for him and for the fans. So I don't see what there is to complain about. He is in terrific shape. He hasn't lost a step on the mic. He's just very entertaining, and I've always said that WWE and all wrestling, but WWE will stick to, would benefit from holding certain guys off television. I said this in my past videos. The fact that Cena is on TV every week, and CM Punk is on TV every week, and Randy Orton's on TV every week, and fill in the blank superstar is on TV every week. It's not special when they show up. It would be cool, in my opinion, to give these guys a little time off, or to hold them off TV for a week or two and then bring them back. So when they come back on, it's like, oh, cool, Cena came back tonight, or CM Punk came back, or whatever, like shake it up a little bit. It's just every week we know we're going to get, Dolph Ziggler's going to come out there. And even a guy like Dolph Ziggler or Del Rio, not just the giant superstars, I mean the whole roster across the board, it does happen. They do bring guys, some of the mid-card guys like Kofi Kingston, for example. Okay, he might not have a prominent role on Monday Night Raw, but then he might get injected into one for a couple weeks, and he's back and he's there, stuff like that. Or Rey Mysterio, how he's been a little injury plagued. He only comes back every so often, and it's cool when you see them, refreshing. So going back to The Rock, I think it's an awesome thing. You have to put your fun hat on, your suspension of disbelief, in the sense that we know that he's going to come back and work this program up until WrestleMania. maybe a tad bit after, and then he's going to go back to making films. And, he might be back into wrestling. He might come back for SummerSlam. I think the future's just sort of wide open. This might be his very last run. We just don't know. And I'm glad to have him back, and I think it's really cool. The only drawback of The Rock coming back and Brock Lesnar coming back is the last few years, it's halted a few pushes, I believe, but it's also done things like get some of the complacency out, because where they were going before these guys showed up, we had the same old feuds, the same old superstars. We'll use Cena and Orton as our example. It was just Cena and Orton this, Cena and Orton that. And so The Rock and Lesnar coming back, and the push of a few guys such as a Sheamus or a Daniel Bryan or an Alberto Del Rio or a Dolph Ziggler, and of course the trip to the moon CM Punk has had over the last year and a half. I think it's done worlds for wrestling, and I think it's done a lot of good. Way more good than bad, even though it did halt a few pushes. Having The Rock and Lesnar, or we'll just say The Rock as well, sort of take over the WrestleMania picture. And then, of course, The Undertaker, who sits out all year and comes back and takes one of the top spots at WrestleMania every year. No one complains about that. All right. And I'm not complaining about it. I think it's awesome. I think The Undertaker is great, and as long as he can go out there and work 100% and live up to his reputation, then he should be out there wrestling at WrestleMania. That's what it's all about. But for one, I am happy The Rock is back, and I thought his match for CM Punk at the Royal Rumble was really well done and very cool, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen at Elimination Chamber and see what's going to happen at WrestleMania. The obvious is that we're going to have The Rock versus The Rock versus John Cena at WrestleMania, and The Rock's probably going to drop the title over to John Cena, who hasn't had the belt in a very long time. So we get The Rock Cena too. Who knows what's going to happen there, but it's going to be interesting to see. It's also, and I'll just go right into WrestleMania now because that was on my list of things to talk about. It's going to be interesting to see who CM Punk's going to work with, at WrestleMania. As of now, we just don't know if The Undertaker is going to come back or not. It's not 100% certain. If he did come back, one would have to think he's going to be working with, sorry, a phone call there. One would have to think he's going to be working with The Undertaker, since there's really no one left, because, we're all pretty sure that Triple H is going to have to go get his revenge on Brock Lesnar after Brock Lesnar fucked him up, and now he's gone in there and slammed Vince McMahon, F5 Vince McMahon. You would have to think that Triple H is going to have to step back in the ring for a WrestleMania match. And that could be a really great match, really brutal. Triple H is great at those matches, as we saw last year with The Undertaker, his match with Mick Foley, and then Shawn Michaels and him in the steel cage. Triple H is really great at doing these brutal kind of street fight, rugged matches, which I would expect this match to be a really gritty grudge match between Lesnar and Triple H, which I'm totally fine with. Brock Lesnar, that's someone who I think, the WWE really messed it up by having him lose to John Cena. I think we all in the wrestling community feel the same way, that last year at Elimination Chamber, Lesnar should have gone over. Even if it was cheating, he should have gone over. You can't bring this beast of a man back, this feared MMA champion, this badass, this ox, this bear, this gorilla, bring him back and have him lose right out the gate. It was a terrible decision. And see, Cena had been on a slump for so long that I thought it would have been great if, Lesnar would have pummeled Cena, and it would be like, oh my gosh, John Cena was beat by The Rock, he was beat by Lesnar, he's been beat down, and have Cena take some time off and come back and be, the true Rocky story, and, come back and rise to glory this year at WrestleMania. What's wrong with that? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I do know that Cena got, a divorce in real life. He got a divorce, and he was scheduled to have some time off, but he decided, because he was getting divorced and it was tough, that he wanted to work and he wanted to stay active during his divorce, and that was his decision. But either way, I really think that we should have seen a Brock Lesnar victory there. Brock Lesnar should not have lost at all. Now, here he is at WrestleMania versus Triple H in this revenge match, and it's almost like he's got to lose, right? I mean, Triple H has got to have his revenge, unless they go ahead and do it at Backlash or whatever the hell they call that these days. Drawing a blank on it. Extreme Rules, right? Unless they go do it Extreme Rules, but I mean, who knows? But I think it's going to be a killer match either way. It is a little shame what they did with Lesnar. I think they could have done it way better, but personally as a fan, I've just cut them the slack and just put my blinders on, and I'm just happy that the monster Brock Lesnar is back, and it's great seeing him in the ring, and it's going to provide for some great memories looking back in a few years. I think people will appreciate both The Rock and Lesnar's return to wrestling 5 years from now. People are going to be like, wow, I wish I would have paid more attention because that was a great time. So pay attention. Next would be, what else we got on the WrestleMania card, of course. We got the World Heavyweight Championship on the WrestleMania card. And I don't want to get too far ahead because, these things still have to be worked out. We still have a pay-per-view coming up. But, who are we going to see in the world title picture at WrestleMania this year? I think it's conceivable that Alberto Del Rio could be in the title picture at WrestleMania, but we can't forget about Sheamus. I mean, what is Sheamus going to do if not fight The Undertaker, if not fight for the World Heavyweight Championship? I mean, there's only so much you can do. I wouldn't want to see him put in a silly program, some sort of dumb tag match or something. I mean, Sheamus has been pushed to the top, and I think he's a viable, guy for the company to be at WrestleMania in the title picture. So, and then we have Randy Orton. What's he going to do? So the world title is really, in my opinion, very up for grabs. And then you got Dolph Ziggler, who could have a WrestleMania moment this year, which is what I would try to certainly work in, having him have a big WrestleMania moment this year to really push his character through the moon, maybe even cash in right there at WrestleMania. But you got to somehow get Sheamus and Orton and Ziggler in this title picture. I guess you don't have to get Orton in, but you would think if you're going to try to preserve Randy Orton as a main event solid talent, you got to do it here at WrestleMania because it's just been too long. Now, I'm not saying you got to put the title on him, but you got to involve him in a serious, big-time match to keep him, or else if they don't do it, then I guess they're going to start to just move away from Randy, Who knows, but I'd be hard-pressed to think they would do a World Heavyweight Championship match at WrestleMania not involving Sheamus, okay? And, I figured that Sheamus might fight the Big Show for it, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen, and that's probably for the better. Will he fight Del Rio? I don't know. I had brought up, well, I guess I didn't because I never did my Royal Rumble predictions because I wasn't feeling well, but I thought perhaps we could see Lesnar be an entrant in the Royal Rumble and win the Royal Rumble and choose to fight for the World Heavyweight Championship and then have Sheamus grab the strap from Del Rio at Elimination Chamber and thus setting up Sheamus versus Brock Lesnar for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 29. That was my kind of ideal scenario because I felt that John Cena didn't have to win the Royal Rumble to get the match with The Rock. No, they could have worked that in. They could have snuck that one in somehow. They could have finagled shit to just make The Rock Cena 2 happen, Not that they can't do it with the other one, but I thought we were all expecting Cena to go in there and win. I mean, you had to be nuts if you thought Cena was not going to win that, and we weren't going to, and Punk was not going to lose, and we weren't going to see WrestleMania 29 Rock Cena for the title. I mean, I saw that coming. I saw that coming from the minute The Rock said on his birthday show or whatever show that was that he did here in Miami some months back last year, my goal is to be WWE champion. I mean, I knew the minute he said that, I'm like, well, he's going to win this belt and he's going to fight Cena at WrestleMania for it. And here it is. But God, God willing, it's fucking awesome. There's no bigger wrestling program in the world, so we got to do it. That's what you got to understand. That's the biggest wrestling program in the world, with guys who can work, with guys who can do it. Okay, that's the biggest match on the planet, and we're getting it for the title. So, World Heavyweight Championship, got to keep an eye on it. Looks to be pretty cool. All right, well, going on to the Hall of Fame. Now, this is, I never really talk about the Hall of Fame induction too much on my channel, but, this year I had to raise an eyebrow and say, wow, they have a top pedigree of wrestlers going in this year. The Hall of Fame is kind of like serious, but it's not serious. It's Vince's Hall of Fame. It's, there's holes. There's logical holes there. They put these celebrities in, stuff like that. But this year is what like a Hall of Fame should look like. I mean, these are like 3 Hall of Famers. I know there's more, but the 3 names I'm going to say: Bruno Sammartino, Bob Backlund, and Mick Foley. I mean, those really are 3 Hall of Fame wrestlers, some serious wrestlers who were influential and who changed the face of wrestling forever. Bruno Sammartino. Now, I had watched a video right before I did this one, Stevie Breach, if you've heard of him. He did a video saying that he doesn't really care about Bruno Sammartino and didn't find his matches very entertaining because he didn't really like these 60s, 70s era of wrestling. And he wonders why all these people have come out of the woodwork saying they love Sammartino and they're so happy Sammartino is getting inducted, blah, 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 blah. Well, I, for one, have made a video about Bruno Sammartino, and I, for 2, am an old school wrestling fan, and it has always been in the back of my mind. And when I talked about it with my friends who like wrestling and the Hall of Fame comes up, every time somebody says, what about Bruno Sammartino? Why isn't he in there? Well, we all know, I'm not going to get into it because you can read about it and look around. Bruno had his grudges with the WWE. He had to work some things out with Vince McMahon before he would agree to come back and put his name on anything WWE, but they've resolved that. And here he is, and it couldn't be more amazing, okay? I mean, we got a big WrestleMania with The Rock and Cena, and we got a big Hall of Fame. I mean, Bruno Sammartino is the, Babe Ruth or the Ty Cobb of professional wrestling. And this guy held the belt for 11 or 12 years. He blossomed WWF when Vince McMahon Sr. was head of the company. This guy basically, pioneered the modern era of wrestling in many respects. And he's just, the king of the WWF. I mean, he's this company's biggest star. So it's amazing that he's going into the Hall of Fame, and I'm so very happy for him. And I do urge everybody, you can get the best of the WWE Championship DVD, or I'm sorry, I think it's called the History of the WWE Championship. And you got the History of the World and the History of the Intercontinental. I recommend getting all 3 sets. Even if you don't have a lot of DVDs, buying those 3 sets is the way to just get a lot of great epic moments with a little space taken up and for a little bit of money. I think you can get each collection for probably under $20 a piece. So if you get that WWE History of the WWE Championship 3-disc set, you'll get to see a couple Bruno Sammartino matches. And yes, the wrestling was more grounded. It was more mat work. It was more what we see out of CM Punk and more what we see out of Daniel Bryan and Shawn Michaels and stuff like that. Cesaro, is another one, and Ziggler to a certain extent. That it was more mat oriented. It was more about grueling it out and toughing it out on the ring and having long matches, 45-minute to an hour-long matches, and it was a different business. There wasn't all this high-flying flash and dash that we see now, and the wrestlers were presented as actual fighters, as a boxer would back then, or anything else. That it was taken more seriously, and it was delivered to the audience as a sport. It was not delivered as entertainment back then. It was sold to us as a sport, and they treated it as such. It wasn't as flashy. Okay, Muhammad Ali in the real world of boxing was probably more flashy than any of the wrestlers who had come, say, before, Dusty Rhodes and superstar Billy Graham. Now, I do understand we did have Gorgeous George way back in the day. Yes, okay. There were some Playboy Nature Boy Buddy Roberts, But what I'm trying to say is, superstar Billy Graham was sort of like the first modern era superstar sort of guy like we have now. With a huge body and the sunglasses and the crazy wardrobe. But, back then, before that, and even when superstar Billy Graham was wrestling, it was presented more as a sport, okay? I'm not going to get into the whole, the tide changed when Hulk Hogan came and Hulkamania was born. That's when things really changed. But we're not going to talk about that today because we'll be here for an hour. Maybe we want to stay here for an hour. I would, but I got other things I got to go do, unfortunately. I'd rather be doing this. But, yeah, so go find out about Bruno Sammartino. Now's the opportunity. You learned that he's being inducted in. You've heard his name a million times. And so there's no better opportunity to go explore and figure out for yourself why Bruno Sammartino deserves to be in here and why Bruno Sammartino, is one of the forefathers of professional wrestling. And that leads me to Bob Backlund, who is no slouch, okay? Bob Backlund, let me tell you something, man. This guy could wrestle with the best of them, okay? You talk about your Bret Hart, you talk about your Chris Benoit, you talk about your Shawn Michaels, okay? You talk about your Ric Flairs. You talk about any of your, your Kurt Angles, okay? Kurt Angle's a great comparison. You talk about these guys who can really wrestle, you know what I mean? Like, really wrestle. Bob Backlund could really wrestle. I find Bob Backlund's matches to be marvelously entertaining. I think he is awesome to watch. And he has this crazy match against Hulk Hogan, like before Hulkamania was born, when Hogan was a bad guy. Over in Japan, I highly recommend that match. You will see a side of Hogan you've never seen before. But Bob Backlund's got a plethora of kick-ass matches, and that DVD set I had mentioned, you'll get some Bob Backlund matches on there as well to check out. So you should definitely grab a copy of that and check both Sammartino and Backlund out. Backlund came back in the 90s at some point. He came back in the 90s, and he was like this arrogant, shouting, sort of cartoony version of himself, and he was older and he looked silly compared to the guys who were wrestling then. So if you're going to judge him from that era, you're not going to really get the full picture of Bob Backlund. You need to go see him when he was in his glory, when he was the WWF champion. But he was really, really incredible, and right there with Sammartino. I mean, if Sammartino's Babe Ruth, this guy's, like the Mickey Mantle. Like Sammartino and Backlund and superstar Billy Graham, I will say, those three people were instrumental and marquee in solidifying the life of the WWE, what we see today. Without those three guys, this company may never have happened. Vince Sr. may have passed away, and Vince might have gone into some other business, because those three guys just held this company together until Vince McMahon Sr. passed away and Vince was old enough to take over, and Hulk Hogan came into his life, and he went with Hulk. And boom, here we go, man, And the rest is history. But that's, in a short nutshell, that's key. That is key stuff right there. No one can argue that. And then we got Mick Foley going into the Hall of Fame. I'm not going to spend too much time on him, but he's one of my very favorite wrestlers. And I realized I've never reviewed any of his DVDs or talked about him. I was sort of saving him until I got really into my show and really got good at making video blogs. And I just never got around to it, and it's so sad. And now I feel like my time has passed, but I will get on here and talk about Mick Foley. A lot's been said that I had wanted to say that hadn't really been said. But now it has, so, that's what I get for waiting. But when the time's right, I will get on here and talk about Foley. But, Mick Foley's another one. Just he's not like a Backlund or Sammartino, of course. I don't mean another one like that, but another wrestler that is unique unto his own, that was innovative, that did blaze trails, that did do things that no one had ever seen before. And of course, he was the ultimate underdog. I mean, he's not in shape, he's not good looking, but God, can he wrestle, and God, is he a character. And so you got three guys that my hat goes off to that I utterly respect going into the Hall of Fame. So this year's Hall of Fame is extra special. All right, now moving on to my very last topic is I had never watched the TV show Main Event, the wrestling program Main Event, until they came here to Miami and filmed with the SmackDown that I attended, and I was on TV, and so I tuned in. And Stevie Breach had mentioned this in the same video. He was talking about Sammartino, and I tend to agree with him, or maybe he just put it in the comments. But either way, I tend to agree with him that it's the best wrestling show on TV. And why? Because it's about wrestling. See, back when I used to watch wrestling, which I still do, so I guess I should say back in the day when I was younger and watched wrestling, wrestling shows were about the wrestling. Now, yeah, you had your promos and you had some storyline, but there's one thing missing from like Monday Night Raw or modern era WWE programming, and that is mystery. Mystery. And it's missing from music as well, and celebrities. With people opened up on Twitter and on Facebook and YouTube, and I think that stuff's great. I'm not saying that I'm against that sort of progression, but people were more mysterious. Famous people were more mysterious. You didn't know so much about them, And so when you saw these guys, let's get back to wrestling, when you saw these guys come out from behind the curtain like a Jake the Snake Roberts, okay? You didn't know all this shit about him. He wasn't on Twitter. There wasn't all this backstage news. It was like this guy with a snake, and he came out and he wrestled and he left, Like back then, Sheamus would have been like some crazy barbarian from another time, out of the hills. Like, where the fuck does this guy come from, sort of character, And now it's like we know about him. They're on commercials, and so Main Event takes me back to, the golden days of wrestling. The golden 80s of wrestling, and we just had like wrestling superstars, and the program would start, and you would have Gorilla Monsoon and Gene Okerlund or Jesse Ventura there. They do their intro and they go straight to the ring, no BS, just straight to the ring, ring the bell, get the match started. That would end, one or two comments, boom, right into another match. There wasn't all these backstage segments, there wasn't all this fluff and hoopla going on all over the place. It was just a straight up wrestling program, and there was mystery there. You saw the match, but then you wondered, what was going to happen? What's going to be next week? I don't know. How does he feel? I don't, And so things were much more special when they did get a superstar on camera to do an interview or something. It was much more special because it didn't happen all the time. And I'm kind of rambling now, but I think you catch my drift. I have talked about how Monday Night Raw is just so over the top, and I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. When I'm saying this, it's not like I'm, bah humbug, modern era wrestling. But I do think, just like holding the guys off TV and stuff, because they weren't on the program every week. You didn't get to see Macho Man every week, or Ricky Steamboat every week, or Hogan every week, okay? It was special when they came on. A little bit more of that, just a little bit more of that would service the wrestling we have today. Letting the wrestling we have today live and breathe the way it is and the way it's done, because it's progression. It's only natural that things progress. So I don't want to stand in the way of that, but I do find Main Event to be a great wrestling show that really does take me back. And I went on there and watched this match, Sheamus versus Dolph Ziggler, Dolph Ziggler. Gosh, I can't talk. But Ziggler versus Sheamus, and the match, dare I say, was borderline pay-per-view quality. And it was just an old school awesome wrestling match. It was really cool. And, they had the match, and then they wrapped it up and they moved on. And, and it was like really awesome to see this match. And I was like, wow, what a waste of a terrific match here. But I've tuned in, and it seems that they have really good matches on there with really good guys that they don't show on Raw or SmackDown. It's really strange. They just show them on this Main Event show. But Yeah, no. Tune in the main event. Check it out. It's on a network called Ion. You know, they have so many shows like Superstars and Saturday Morning Slam and all this stuff. I just can't, watch them all. I don't think a lot of you can watch them all. So, I tend to tape SmackDown and Raw. Sometimes I delete SmackDown without even watching it. Raw, I'll watch if it's good. I'll at least, watch it and fast forward through crap I don't care about to get the stuff I do care about so I can condense the time it takes to watch it. I very rarely watch Monday Night Raw when it airs live. I typically will go on and watch like the first hour either after it's gone off the air or maybe halfway through. Like at 10 o'clock I'll start it and watch like an hour, and then Tuesday, which is today, I'll go back and finish it or something. But main event, thumbs up. What a great show. Just brings me back. Has that mystery element to it, And I'm just going to take the time, since I've taken so long to make this video, to talk about, like music, like pop stars, out there here. Jay-Z's and all these, people, these musicians, they are not mysterious, Kurt Cobain, Eddie Vedder, Axl Rose, these guys, and I'm not even going way back, I'm just talking about the 90s, these guys were mysterious. Like, all you had was an issue of Rolling Stone and MTV, but MTV was just little news bits and blurbs. There wasn't, they weren't going cribs over these guys' houses. You weren't knowing all about them, and it added to it. Madonna, she was so mysterious, and Prince, he was so mysterious. And a lot of these giant stars, there was some mystery to them, and it added to the effect, and it added to their persona. And nowadays, with all these tweets and everything, you get let into these people's lives, and you are kind of turned off. You're just like, all right, well, that's like my buddy Dave down the street, or it's just TMI. It just sucks all the mystery out of it. It's just kind of unfortunate, You have to go to libraries to get information, Before the internet, you had to go to a library and look it up and go and walk through floors and everything. Now the library is just a place where homeless people go to take a piss. But again, I'm not against progression. I'm glad we have the internet. I use all this shit. I have my iPhone, and I have Final Cut Pro. I'm blabbing and not making that much, but I'm very technically savvy. Let's just put it that way. I love this stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I think that one day the Facebook era is going to maybe be laughed at. I think the YouTube will always remain because it's providing us with our own TV station, and it's providing us with a way to express ourselves, either artistically or emotionally, or give our opinions. Facebook is just like taking your photo albums and putting them on a billboard for strangers and idiots to see. Now, I know you make your stuff private, but you know what I'm saying. The Facebook era might find its way, going the way of the dodo bird. I think people are getting sick of it. And I don't want to have all this information about everybody all the time. I like a little mystery. It's the way I like it. That's why you don't see me all that time. I'm a little mysterious, aren't I? You don't know too much about me. I don't know too much about you either. I guess that's what kind of makes it cool. Well, I have rambled on enough. I have missed you guys. I'm still with you, so hopefully I will be seeing Elimination Chamber. You never know, busy family man such as myself, I got to pick my fights. I can't have them all. I always put my foot down for the big four. Elimination Chamber is one of my favorites, though. And so is actually Backlash and Money in the Bank. But I always have to kind of finagle those. We'll see. I may be able to watch it live. I might not. I'm going to do my damnedest. I'll give my predictions, hopefully, be on here. And then we're ready for WrestleMania. And you can bet that I will be watching that one live. So I already got the party on the calendar. I'm having a party in my house, actually, for WrestleMania 29. So, all right, guys. I will see you next time. And thanks for tuning in to Hot Water Wrestling.